Hi, my name is Bethany, and today I want to talk to you about something called flat affect. Really quickly, thank you to my patrons for voting on this video topic, and a quick merch shout out. This design and others are available at the merch link below. Now, something that is on the common list of symptoms or signs is something called flat affect, or I'm pretty sure I'm saying that word right, but I'm not like 100%. It's one of those things that I never really bothered looking into a whole lot because I figured that probably didn't really apply that much to me and probably apply to other people. And quite frankly, I hadn't really heard it actually used to describe me or anyone else, so it didn't seem super pressing to look into. So let's look into what affect even means in this context. According to a definition I found on the University of Washington's website, affect in psychology is an immediately expressed and observed emotion. A feeling state becomes an affect when it is observable, for example, as overall demeanor or tone and modulation of voice. Affect is to be distinguished from mood, which refers to a pervasive and sustained emotion. There are varying degrees of affect, or basically what would be considered a range of affect, and this glossary definition really does help parse out what exactly those are and what they mean. A range of affect may be described as broad, which is normal, restricted or constricted, blunted, or flat. The normal expression of affect involves variability in facial expression, pitch of voice, and the use of hand and body movements. Restricted affect is characterized by a clear reduction in the expressive range and intensity of affects. Blunted affect is marked by a severe reduction in the intensity of affective expression. In flat affect, there is a lack of signs of affective expression. The voice may be monotonous and the face immobile. Affect is inappropriate when it is clearly discordant with the content of the person's speech or ideation. So I found this interesting because it sounds a whole lot like what autistic people use as what they're masking over. So not only maybe people masking autistic traits to hide things, but also to bring expression to your face to seem more engaged and more acting like other people and kind of mirroring what people are doing and seeming more like you're pleasant because you know that if you don't put on a face, you seem unpleasant. Now, when I initially saw this, I thought, that doesn't really apply to me because I know I can be pretty expressive. I feel that I'm pretty expressive, especially on these videos where I'm more comfortable and I'm just in front of a camera and there's no one there to judge me so much. But then I began to think more about it. Whenever I'm out of energy or depressed or basically going into a shutdown, my facial expression does turn quite flat. My voice sometimes will literally go monotonous or robotic, as some might put it. I can't do the energy that it takes to put the right intonation to everything or the right inflection or whatever of your voice and the expressions and everything. It's just there is no energy to do this anymore. I'm done. A lot of times I'm putting a lot of energy into trying to sound genuinely, I'm not even sure how to explain, but a lot of times I'll still get called out when maybe I genuinely laugh about something that really wasn't that funny. And then people are like, was that a really fake? Did you just... And then they noticed that I was masking, so that's kind of awkward. And then when I realized that apparently people just make the right face when they're talking with someone who's having issues or whatever, and they don't have to think about how does my face look? Do I look like I'm being nice? I don't want to look rude. Do I look rude right now? People typically just make the expression that they're feeling in the moment and sound the way that they just sound, and they make sense together so people can read what their momentary thing is right then, if that makes sense. So this is definitely a thing commonly seen in autism, and while I don't think I necessarily fall under flat affect, I do think that I do naturally rely more on the restricted affect kind of plane or field of things. I've definitely seen other people who are pretty much continuously at a flat affect, and that's just not me, that I have a lot of expressiveness when I'm talking with people. Unless if it's something to do with depression or I am pulling from my insides to tell you difficult things. When I have to talk about things that are hard for me to get around my mental blocks to tell you, then I will be very flat tone and expression, etc. So when I'm recording these videos, I try to hype myself up a little bit so that you're not super bored watching this. That's just really kind of a natural thing that people do anyway. However, I often forget about that. And so I'll start with like this. It feels like this at the beginning, and if I start to go off script, much like I feel like I'm literally just so close to doing right now, I tend to start to get lost in my mind and thinking and stuff, and so then my face, especially my face, I don't know why, when I'm not thinking about it, I have such a, I don't know, I don't like my facial expression. And then of course my voice kind of flattens out and becomes more monotone. I really wouldn't say that I have a flat affect. I think that sometimes it's a little more restricted or blunted when I'm just being me and not trying to put on something for other people and stuff like that. I also think that the whole inappropriate affect is something that's more like a technical term to what I feel that often happens with me when it comes to things that really aren't that important. I'm super excited about the way someone said something. I might come across as super excited, and oh my goodness, that was like the best thing in the whole wide world. Yeah, sure, I found delight in it, but it wasn't amazing. Yet when there's something that's super important, especially when it's dealing with me, I might not be able to express it that way. So I might say, oh, I just have something I want to tell you, and blah, blah, blah. It's just, there's like this limit on it, I guess. So it's almost like a lot of times my expressions and reactions are almost inverse to what you might normally expect. And maybe I'm being a bit broad in a generalization here, so I could be wrong here, but that seems to kind of fall under the concept of having an inappropriate affect. If I were to say, I'm so excited, and I wasn't being sarcastic, like, I'm so excited, but instead I was just saying, oh yeah, I'm so excited. That's gonna be hard for someone to believe me, right? So that would be an inappropriate affect if I really was excited, but that's all I could give you. That would be an inappropriate and probably flat affect. To be clear, flat affect itself is not a condition. It is a symptom or sign of another condition, kind of like having a side effect. In fact, it actually can be a side effect of medication. It can be a sign or symptom of autism. Schizophrenia seems to be the largest one that will come up when you search about flat affect. And of course, it can be because of depression, which is something I personally can attest to. Just as with anything on my channel, please realize that when we're talking about like one concept or one idea or whatnot, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone who has experienced that is autistic or is something. Flat affect, as I just mentioned, can be a sign or a symptom of a lot of things. Doesn't necessarily mean someone is autistic. However, if you are suspecting autism and you have a ton of signs, this might be one of them that also contributes to the possibility. Sadly, this might be part of why autistic children have difficulty making friends. It can be really hard because we can come off as like cold and unfeeling when that's just like what our face does. It's not really our fault. It's just our brain does something different, and that also can affect the way that we naturally express with our face and our tone of voice and our gestures. Note that flat affect or any range of affect doesn't mean that the person isn't feeling. So just because they aren't expressing it with their tone of voice and the expression on their face and with their hands and whatever else, that doesn't mean that they're not feeling the happiness or their excitement or whatever else. It just means that their affect is not, I guess, appropriate in that situation. As with most things, people wanted to know if there was a solution to the problem of flat affect. And it appears that there are two methods of dealing with this. One, we get rid of the problem that's causing flat affect, because again, flat affect is not a condition itself, but a symptom or a sign of another condition. So if it's depression and we handle the depression, maybe the flat affect goes, right? However, with autism, there isn't a way to just make autism go away, right? And in some other cases, you can't just make things go away or take away the medication that might be causing the flat affect. So then there's option number 2, which is basically masking, teaching people how to change their voice and their expressions, etc., to adapt to the situation and the conversation, what the appropriate kind of response would be to make you look as interested or as caring as you are on the inside. Really quickly, I wanted to show you just kind of something that was lingering in the back of my mind. A picture. It's actually a still frame from when I was ending one of my videos. In it, I'm just smiling to myself as I turn off the camera. So when I saw it at first, I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. I like that. I'm smiling and looking into the camera, and you know what? I'll put that as my profile picture. That looks nice, right? However, later on, I would realize how muted my expression looks compared to when I actually smile for others or smile for typical, like, picture taking. For example, if you were telling me I was taking a picture, I might do this. Okay, this isn't my natural smile. Most people don't use their natural smile for pictures because I don't think they do they? What was weird to me is, like, that was my genuine smile to myself, and just like, And it was weird to me because I realized later that looks really muted when I didn't think it did at first. It's just weird to me. I learned to smile specifically for cameras when I was a child because when I was a child, everyone kept telling me to smile for a family picture. I was smiling, and I guess maybe I did have some sort of blunted or muted or even flat affect because they told me I wasn't smiling, but like I was smiling. And so the photographer thought she would solve the problem by telling me to show my teeth. Of course, my genius brain took her literally, took it out of the context of smiling and showed her my teeth. And of course my older sister convinced my family that that was the best picture we were going to get, and so that picture hung on our family wall for a long time. So I learned how to smile in pictures for the most part. But the one where I was turning off the camera, that's just me. That's just me smiling, how I smile, not for anyone else, just to smile. That's just what I look like. Again, I don't think it's flat affect for me personally. Most of the case, I think it's just more muted or blunted or maybe restricted than typically it is for other people, unless of course affect has to be in the social situation. I don't know that part, so take my last part of this video, which is my personal thoughts regarding myself, with a grain of salt in that regard. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you have flat affect? Did you know that RBF could be, in some situations, flat affect, etc. Let me know your thoughts. If you're interested in hearing autism related content from me, you can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I upload to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Thank you to my patrons for supporting me through Patreon, and a special thank you to my Spaz tier patron, Brian Kleinhammer.
I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!